Hello, everyone. Happy full moon, Aquarius full moon at the anaretic degree. If you don't know, the anaretic degree is the last degree of a sign. It's very potent. It's the way I like to describe it. It's like being on an airplane, and it's then that place where the airplane actually gets all rocky because it's about to actually get to the next level, and then it's smooth sailing, right? So getting to the destination, right? So I think it's pretty special that we have this full moon at the last degree, and especially because the full moon in Aquarius that we had, I'm not sure, what was the date on that? I think it was somewhere July, maybe it was July 24th, but anyways, ultimately the most important is the full moon was at 2 degrees of Aquarius. So that was the beginning of the sign, and now a full moon at the end of the sign, which is exciting. So happy full moon, and thank you, Deepak. Grateful for you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hopping on. It's always great to see you in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your love and kind words. So what I was thinking about bringing to the live tonight is that, you know, if you caught me on the last live, I picked a Carolyn May's Archetype card to guide us into this full moon. And it was a card that I actually have randomly picked in the past. And I think, you know, it's not surprising it would come up again because the north node of the moon is in Gemini. And this card is actually very much in alignment with the Geminian energy. It's actually this card here, it's called Gossip. And, you know, we talked about that there's like positive gossip as the function of the psyche and consciousness that desires to learn about what we like, what we don't like, what we agree with, what we don't agree with. So I think it can be natural that we engage in gossip. We talk about others, and, you know, we hope it's coming from a place of wanting to learn and understand rather than something that would be shadowy and destructive to that person, or to, you know, having compassion for people, and that we're all in this learning process. We're all trying to understand our own realities and how we create them ourselves, even with our thoughts and our words, you know, because we are so powerful. We've been given these God-given gifts to actually utilize as tools of really instruments of our power. And when I say power, I mean our soul, because our soul is the bottom line of all existence, right? It is our connection to the divine. It is created within the divine. It is the divine. And so, yeah, you know, understanding that our words and our thoughts, what we think is possible for ourselves, what we think is possible for others, what we think is possible, really does have an effect on how we perceive reality and how we create reality, because we are all creating our reality, right? So I was thinking, you know, with gossip, you know, there is a healthy form of gossip, and then there's a form of gossip that would be destructive, that would be spreading lies, that would be spreading something that is not true about others or ourselves, or really aligning with lies. Because if you don't know, Gemini and Sagittarius is actually the axis of consciousness that has to do with truth versus lies. So this is a part of our consciousness that really wants to seek out a lot of different information in order to distill the truth and come to our own personal truth. So the north node of the moon is in Gemini right now. The south node is in Sagittarius. So this can be really looking at what is no longer true for us personally, what is no longer true in the world, and how can we utilize this part of our consciousness that wants to expand and learn through the Geminian lens and find new thoughts, new ideas, new ways of perceiving, new ways of connecting, new ways of connecting the dots, new ways of connecting to people, and new ways of really synthesizing a lot of information and coming into this distillation of truth, and really understanding that it does take, sometimes it takes opposing ideas in order to really get a more holistic point of view, a more holistic understanding. So this is where we can really support each other, even if we don't agree. We can recognize we're all bringing something valuable to the table so that we all have a more holistic point of view. So it doesn't mean it's easy. And, you know, these are where the nodes of the moon are. So this can be an emotional experience for us because, you know, and when we experience those triggers emotionally, we can recognize that there's something there that's really wanting to be addressed in our own consciousness, and wanting to be resolved in our own consciousness, wanting to be questioned in our own consciousness so that we can expand our awareness and grow. So it's not necessarily an easy path, but it's actually there to support us, especially right now, because of the fact that Pluto's in Capricorn, really exposing how we're structuring our consciousness and what would be toxic to that moving forward. You know, how we can actually empower ourselves and how we structure our consciousness and open us up to new ideas, which is, you know, really referring to that North Node in Gemini, as well as Saturn and Jupiter being in Aquarius. This is all about really looking at new ways of structuring consciousness, new ways in which we want to create and set parameters for our lives so that we can become something new. And also so that we can support an expansion of our belief system, as well as an expansion in our values and an up-leveling in our values. Because, you know, we are doing this constantly. It's not like we come up with values and beliefs and then we're done and we're set for life. I mean, that would be very limiting because we live in such a infinite universe. There's always more to learn. There's always more to expand in our understanding of it and perceiving of it. And that's what's so exciting. So this full moon in Aquarius is great to really look at the things that maybe we're emotionally triggered by, ideas that we maybe find ourselves emotionally triggered by, and also ways in which we've limited ourselves personally. And, you know, limited ourselves in the sense of the way we structured our reality in the past and how we want to move forward in actually really structuring our reality based on our own ideas, you know, really coming from our own connection to source energy, because we are all plugged in to ultimate source. And that is where our ideas come from, in that relationship to source, I really believe. So I was thinking tonight for this live, I was thinking I would pick another card to go with the gossip card. And maybe it would, you know, give us some more information about the energies of the full moon, how we can be supported by these cards, you know, or by contemplating a card that I pick for collective contemplation. And, you know, maybe it'll give us even more insight around the gossip card. Maybe there's more to contemplate that would actually empower us individually and collectively in understanding gossip and the function of gossip and how to utilize, if it's as a healthy function in our consciousness, and really contemplating, you know, what would be the light attributes of gossip and what are the shadow attributes of gossip, right? Because the North Node's in Gemini, I think it's really powerful that this card has come up. And I think, you know, really because it's come up before, I think that there's, you know, just something that we could contemplate to really come to some resolve with. Because the full moon is very much about coming to completion with things. And especially this one, because it's at the last or completing degree of Aquarius. So this is pretty special. It's also the second full moon in Aquarius, which is pretty special. So I'm I'm shuffling the cards. I am looking to pull a card that would be most beneficial for collective contemplation for this full moon, and as it might relate to the gossip card. I'm going to shuffle one more time. Oh, wow. I think we've gotten this card also. This is exciting. Okay. So this is the card I pulled for collective contemplation. And I don't know about you, but I am already getting some ideas on what this could mean. I'm going to read what Carolyn Mace has to say on the card. She says, the light attribute is helps you recognize and confront addictive behavior. The shadow attribute is compromises integrity and honesty. Allows an addictive pattern to have authority over your inner spirit. Well, I'll say that my first inclination, my first thought is that we can get addicted to ideas. You know, we can get addicted, or we can, you know, another word would be we can have habits in the way that we think, in the way that we perceive. The brain does this. The brain actually it wants to feel safe, right? It wants to protect the ego. The ego is us, right? It's our body, but it's not just our body. It's our emotional field. It's our intellectual field, our mind. It's our whole being. It's our psychic field. It's our spiritual field, right? And so the brain actually is always wanting to feel safe. It's always wanting to protect us. And thank you, ego, for doing that, because this is good. You know, we want to be protected, but sometimes we can get addicted to thinking things in a certain way or perceiving things in a certain way because it's what made us feel safe in the past. And it's, you know, we get comfortable with knowing what reality is because it's worked for us in the past. We've survived our past. But we can also feel limited because we're not growing. And maybe we're not growing because we have these habits that we've formed in the way in which we've perceived ourselves, what we're capable of, what our ideas are about ourselves and about, you know, others, about reality, about how reality is created, about our society, about, you know, our beliefs, and, you know, about our emotions. We can just have these habits around how we perceive all of these things, right? And so at times we're going to come to these places where, and I think triggers can be an indicator that maybe we've been habitually thinking something, which is like the addict. Like we get addicted to seeing reality in a certain way. We get addicted to the comforts of the ego, meaning, because the ego is a good thing. The ego, we have to have an ego to perceive anything, to really actually have a vehicle for our soul and to embody the soul on the earth plane, and as well as expand our soul evolution. And so, but the thing is, we're going to come into these places as we grow where we find that we may be triggered because something is revealing to us that we're feeling restricted. We're feeling like our perception is restricted and we're not able to expand. Which is natural. It's natural for us to want to grow. It's natural for us to want to expand in lots of different ways, right? So, but we can be really contending with this desire for soul growth, which is the soul, right? And also the ego that wants things to be comfortable. But the soul, I mean, the soul growth is actually uncomfortable. You know, it's just like when we're children, our bodies are growing and we may have experienced growing pains, whether that was physically growing pains in the body or growing pains in the emotional field, growing pains in the intellect, where we had to strive to learn, right? So we continuously do this as we become adults and we mature through life. It's a continual process. But we actually, as adults, we have choice to become restricted to a certain level. We have a choice in the way that we're going to perceive reality. We have choice in the way that we're going to think, or even, you know, it's like we don't have to believe everything we think. And this is a good thing because those thoughts are just presenting possibilities. And they're just as, the potential of them is just as possible as our highest ideals and our ideas that make us actually feel expanded and excited about life and joyous about life, right? So I think that this addict card can be these places in our perception that we can come to where we're just addicted to thinking in a certain way. We can also become addicted to gossip, right? And we can become addicted to talking about the things that we don't like, talking about the things that aren't beneficial for us or aren't helping us thrive. And sometimes that addiction is because there's something we're not getting. And so, you know, it can be looking at like, where is it that, you know, I'm addicted to perceiving in a certain way or talking or speaking in a certain way that actually is only just regenerating kind of a energy that is uncomfortable or destructive. It's not actually regenerating energy in my body or regenerating energy in my mind and my perceptions and my connection to people. And so I can see how it could go with gossip, because I do think that gossip is addictive. And I think that there is a healthy form of gossip where it can be this opportunity to learn, but we don't want to keep spinning our wheels on these ideas or these thoughts or like contemplations that of what we like, what we don't like, or whatever, in a place where it's keeping us in that spinning wheel in our mind or looping, rather than actually learning and moving on and expanding our perceptions, right? So I want to read this again. Helps you recognize and confront addictive behavior, compromises integrity and honesty. Well, we talked about, I think earlier in this life, I said, you know, sometimes gossip can be spreading misinformation or like a perception that is based on one perception rather than giving space that there may be many other perceptions that are true, right? And so this is where it can be disintegrous, or the shadow side of gossip or the shadow side of addiction is like really compromising integrity and honesty, and recognizing that there are many ways to perceive something. There are many ways to perceive what is true, what is not true, what is reality, right? And yeah, allows an addictive pattern to have authority over your inner spirit. So the thing is our spirit, you know, I think our spirit is really actually very tuned into the fact that we are empowered. We have power. We have the capacity to plug into our own empowerment. And when we get addicted to certain like thoughts that actually aren't productive for us or make us feel expanded and happy and joyous and free, I think that this is where the inner spirit can be dampened, you know? So really recognizing like what ideas, what kind of gossip, what kind of communication, what kind of thoughts, what kind of perceptions, what kind of communication with other people helps us feel expanded and joyous, and what shuts us down. I really believe that with our speaking, we can either open people up or we can shut people down. We're opening up people's chakras or we're shutting them down, meaning the energy. I mean, I don't want to imply that other people have power over us. And this is why I say I think it's important to really recognize the kind of energies we put ourselves around, and recognizing what opens us up and makes us feel regenerated and expanded, and what shuts us down, what makes us restrict, what has us feeling like we like our inner spirit is shut down. So really recognizing those things and detaching. You know, Aquarius is very much about detaching. So we can detach from things, look at things from an objective point of view, which is very much an Aquarian energy or consciousness, where we're looking at just, okay, you know, taking out this emotional component for a moment and really looking at what is actually effective in this situation and what is not effective. And so you know, we can really be objective about our reality and objective about the situations we find ourselves in, the people we find ourselves around, the ideas that we find ourselves exposed to or thinking as well, or promoting as well, and really looking at, you know, is this effective? And you know, we can detach from things, people, places, whatever, that, you know, ideas that actually aren't regenerating our spirit. So I hope this is helpful. And if you have any thoughts, ideas, you know, about anything I've said, but also in regards to these cards, I would love to hear, as you know. And thanks for hopping on. Thanks for whoever's watching the replay. Happy full moon. And I will be back tomorrow.